I'm Becky Davis with City TV, and welcome to Inside Santa Barbara, the city's only news magazine show. We bring you up to date on the city's most significant issues, projects, and events. As of May 1st, Lake Cachuma is at 27% capacity, Gibraltar Reservoir is at 13% capacity, and the Sierra Nevada snowpack is 5% of normal. All said, California is in an unprecedented drought, and we're entering the summer season. In our first story, we'll tell you about how Santa Barbara is looking to the ocean to get us through these dry times. The 1987 to 1990 drought that many of us still remember has now been bumped to the second driest 4 years on record. The 1948 to 1951 drought still remains the driest 5 years on record in Santa Barbara, making it the drought of record and the basis for the city's water supply planning efforts over the years. That is until today. The drought we are currently in is now the driest 4 years on record, 20% drier than the drought of 1987 to 1990. Fortunately, the city's water supply is made up of diverse sources, which includes desalination.
There's Lake Cachuma, there's Lake Gibraltar, there's state water, there's groundwater, there's purchasing water, there's conservation, there's recycled water. And yet, even with this exceptional drought, we're running out of all those options. And so desal has become the last option that we're looking at that we really need. If we don't have significant rainfall in the next 12 to 15 months, even with a 25% conservation by all of us, we would still need desal for 30% of our water supply by September 2016. So it's so important that we have this as one option. It's not the option, but to have that in the portfolio of all the different options we have is really helping us making sure that we can supply water for truly good health and safety reasons.
Every drought, we continued, I believe, to improve our water supply planning, and it's all about diversity. So that's how you are able to weather, lose a supply and you're completely in a pinch. We need to diversify. We recognized that during the last drought. That's why we went ahead and perfected our permits here to operate this desalination plant. We understand the vulnerable situation we live in as a community. And so to have this facility and bring it online provides the ultimate in water supply reliability.
The Charles Meyer Desalination Facility was constructed in response to the drought of 1987 to 1990. It was operated for 3 months and has been in long-term storage ever since. But it has always been a critical part of the city's water supply portfolio in case of future droughts.
The voters voted this in at the last drought, and they had the foresight to say this needs to be part of the solution. Not the solution, but part of the solution. And even though we're talking about big money to get this plant up and running again, we didn't have the land, the bones basically, the foundation, we'd be looking at almost twice as much to do a new desalination plant. So the foresight of leaders and the voters from back in the late 80s, early 90s during the last drought to have this as an option over time has really helped us.
We've seen the Carlsbad desalination plant. It's been in design and now finally in construction, but it started over 15 years ago. So I feel very fortunate with our facility that we have the basic infrastructure here, we have the permits in place, and so even though it's going to take us 12 to 14 months to bring this facility back online, we are so far ahead because there are so many factors to consider with desalination process that we're in a good place.
Given that the plant has been in long-term storage mode for the past 22 years, a lot has changed in desalination technology. The City Council directed staff to start the process to bring the plant back online about 1 year ago, with the goal of producing water by fall of 2016. To get there were many issues to address. First was how to fund the $40 million project and who to select to design and reactivate the facility.
So we're hoping to wrap negotiations up in May, package it up, and take it to Council the first part of June. That's our goal right now. There's a lot of things that have to come together. We have to reach an agreement in the negotiations, and we need to make sure the loan that we have applied for and all the paperwork for that comes together. We're hearing very positive things from the state. They're wanting to make this loan happen.
For the proposed drought water rates that includes the desalination plant, the city assumed a loan with 6% interest and a 10-year payback. If state funding is secured with a lower interest rate, The proposed city water rates will be reassessed to reflect the actual terms of the loan. The plant was originally constructed by Ionics Incorporated out of Boston, Massachusetts, on a vacant piece of property on Yananali Street between the freeway and the El Estero wastewater treatment plant. Touring the facility today, one can see the decades-old technology still evident.
That was cutting-edge early 1990s technology, but certainly it's come a long ways. I mean, I think my iPhone will do more than what that computer in that room will do. So it's come a long ways, and certainly we'll be implementing the latest technology, which we're currently using up at Arcadia Water Treatment Plant or at El Estero. I mean, it's just a vast difference. You can, operate the facility remotely. You can operate it with a much smaller staff than they did before. And so that technology is certainly going to help minimize those operational costs.
In addition, one of the issues that the environmental community has expressed concern over is the ocean water intake and its impact on marine life, and the amount of energy it takes to remove the salt and make potable water.
One of the biggest changes is going to be on the initial screens that are out in the ocean. Much tighter screen than we had before. In fact, it's a 1 millimeter screen. That technology is the best available technology out there to protect the marine environment. For those people at home, it's about the width of your screens on your windows. It's a really tight screen. It will prevent any significant marine life from getting pulled into the facility. Then after that, we're talking significant improvements in the efficiencies of pumps and even the RO membranes. We're looking at this facility using about 30% less energy than it did in the 90s.
The desalination plant will initially supply 3,125 acre-feet of water to the community per year, about 30% of Santa Barbara's anticipated water demand during the drought. However, the facility is permitted up to 10,000 acre-feet per year and can increase the water output if the drought continues.
Next spring, depending on how dry it is, there will be another decision point on whether we go from 3125 up to 75. So then we'll look at it and wait for the next spring, and if we continue to have a drought condition, we'll look again at the capacity and what we might need.
Even though the last 4 years have been the driest we've seen, the city remains confident we will have sufficient water supplies for health and safety needs, as long as the community meets or exceeds the required conservation savings. Conservation
is still important. It isn't as though we can stop conserving, and so I think it's important to be thinking, it is our plant. We're gonna keep this facility, this community from running out of water, but conservation is always going to be a big part of weathering any drought. There's just a part of our supply we cannot make up.
I really hand it to our residents of Santa Barbara. They've really stepped up to the plate. In the last 6 months, we've reached a 23% conservation rate. With the new state regulations, we need now to get up to 25%. We'll be able to do that. We are number 4 in the state of the best conserving areas, and that was a recent poll done that looked at all the areas throughout California, and Santa Barbara knows that this is a time that we need to conserve, and they're following through.
Once the desalination plant is reactivated as an emergency supply, Council will need to consider projected water supply availability, water quality, environmental impacts, and costs in weighing the long-term use of the plant after the drought. Fortunately, Santa Barbara has a diverse water supply portfolio, but there's one resource that's unique to the rest. In our next story, we'll learn more about this valuable source and why it's so important to manage and maintain. Groundwater, a crucial resource to our community, especially now. Unlike many of our other water sources that must be transported from miles away, groundwater is one of the only local sources we can rely on.
Groundwater is very critical during droughts and emergencies. It's really our truly only local resource for potable water that's currently operational. Our surface water is our primary water supplies when it's available, and it's located on the other side of the mountains and transported through tunnels. If we were to have an event where there was a tunnel collapse, groundwater would be our only resource available for drinking water.
The last 4 years have been the driest consecutive 4 years at Gibraltar in 96 years of recorded history. To date, we have received about 45 inches of rainfall, compared with about 55 inches over 1987 to 1990, which were the first 4 years of the last major drought in Santa Barbara. With little supply from Lake Cachuma and Gibraltar Reservoir, groundwater is one of the sources we look to supplement our supply.
In normal years, surface water is our primary water source, and groundwater provides roughly 5% of our supplies. And we reserve our groundwater supply for times of droughts and emergencies. So right now we're working to increase and ramp up our groundwater supply to about 20% of our water supply. And then after the drought is over, when we have surface water and our reservoirs are full, we allow our groundwater basins to rest and the groundwater levels to recover.
Our groundwater supply is recharged by rainfall that accumulates in 2 large underground basins.
The city has 2 primary groundwater basins, which are the Foothill Basin and the Storage Unit 1, also known as the Downtown Basin. In the Foothill Basin, the city has 3 wells which are in operation and have been since the drought was declared. There are other pumpers in the basin as well. So our water levels that we are watching, they are relatively low, but we are still producing water from those wells. In our Storage Unit 1, we have the Ortega Groundwater Treatment Plant, and we currently have 2 wells online feeding the plant and are working on a number of groundwater well projects to increase production capacity in Storage Unit 1.
The city has a number of wells within these basins, including the Alameda Park well, which is currently being replaced.
The city has quite a few wells. This is the 5th well within what we call the lower portion. Our other wells are what we call Corporation Yard well, City Hall well, Veracruz well, and we also have another high school well that's not online, but we are working on to put that in line in the system as well.
We're replacing the old Alameda Park well. We'll ream the hole out to a larger diameter so that we can drop in the water well casing, which is going to be a stainless steel 12-inch diameter casing. And at the bottom portion of the casing is the well screen, which is open, it's perforated, that allows water to go from the aquifer into the borehole into the well. And then after that, the final portion of the project will be the pumping and the test pumping to verify what the yield of the well will be.
The Alameda Park well has been out of service since February due to a failure in the well structure. Because groundwater is such a valuable resource, replacing this well is a major priority.
The old well was a mild steel, which ended up deteriorating over time. This one is a stainless steel, which will hopefully help over time and the deterioration of being in the ground and all of the contaminants within that.
While each well is different, the Alameda Park well is expected to deliver 550 gallons per minute once it's back online. Treatment of groundwater also varies from well to well.
Some wells require less treatment. In our Foothill Basin, the water quality is sufficient that we can do minimal treatment with just disinfection before it can be put into the distribution system. In Storage Unit 1, we are treating for naturally occurring constituents such as iron and manganese, and that treatment occurs at our Ortega Groundwater Treatment Plant. Most of the wells in Storage Unit 1 require treatment at Ortega Groundwater Treatment Plant, with the exception of one well, which is Alameda well.
This particular well, the groundwater is very, what we call good, so it can go directly into the distribution with minimal treatment.
Unfortunately, groundwater supplies have been heavily depleted in some parts of California, which is why the state recently passed new legislation called the Groundwater Sustainability Act, which allows for local management of groundwater basins.
The city's basins are not on the list of the highest ranked basins with groundwater issues. However, we are watching it closely because any groundwater basin that is ranked a high priority must develop a groundwater sustainability plan. So the city has been managing our groundwater basins and is looking into what we need to do to be in compliance with the state.
While groundwater is a great source to rely on during the drought, our basins are too small to supply all of our needs and could be depleted if the drought continues for several more years. Conservation is critical to preserve remaining supplies, especially during times like these. For more information about our groundwater supply, visit santabarbaraca.gov/water. The City of Santa Barbara works tirelessly to make sure our creek and ocean water quality never slips through the cracks. However, this summer, new projects will be installed downtown that allow polluted stormwater to do exactly that. Up next, City TV's Matthew Meyer shows us why that's a good thing.
Urban runoff, a toxic soup of heavy metals, bacteria, and other pollutants. It's the enemy of creek and ocean water quality. When it doesn't rain, the ill effects of stormwater runoff aren't alleviated, they're merely delayed, resulting in an even more concentrated concoction when the water begins to fall. To address this polluting perpetrator, the Creeks Division has begun employing a low-tech solution that has given them high hopes: the permeable paver.
Permeable pavers are concrete paving stones, and they have gaps in between them to where water can pass through. And when it rains, water passes through those pavers and it percolates down into a rock layers that don't have any sand between them, so it acts as a water storage and gives it time for that stormwater to infiltrate into the ground.
The paver's ability to capture rainwater makes the material much more environmentally friendly than the impermeable surfaces that currently cover most of Santa Barbara.
Streets, sidewalks, alleys, and parking lots cover a very large area of the city, and they're all covered with impermeable surfaces. And what happens is pollutants get onto those surfaces, and whenever it rains, all those pollutants are washed untreated into the creeks and out to the ocean.
Instead of letting polluted water flow directly into these important ecosystems, permeable surfaces trap stormwater at the source.
The stones would go on top of a bedding layer of rock, about a 2-inch bedding layer, and then below that bedding layer is a slightly larger stone, 4 inches, a 4-inch layer of a slightly larger stone, and then below that is a bigger stone called a number 2 stone, and this creates the foundation for the entire basin.
The permeable paver system does more than simply contain the stormwater. Microscopic organisms beneath the pavers actively treat pollution through natural processes.
Studies have also shown that microbes will reside on the surfaces of these rocks. There's a lot of surface area where microbes will reside, and so you actually get a lot of pollutant treatment before it even gets to that subgrade soil.
To demonstrate the benefits of this natural form of stormwater management, Santa Barbara's Creeks Division installed permeable pavers in the parking lot of Mackenzie Park in 2011. The development's positive results led Creeks to renovate several more lots in 2013.
We've removed over 100,000 square feet of asphalt and replaced it with permeable pavers. Statewide, Santa Barbara has been a leader in this type of low-impact development strategy.
Encouraged by the success of these projects, the city is about to break new ground in permeable paver development.
We're moving out of the demonstration projects we've done in parking lots and into other urban hardscape areas like sidewalks and alleyways.
To demonstrate the benefits of permeable paving on sidewalks, the city will target Alice Keck Park Memorial Gardens. The sidewalk that borders this beautiful area downtown will receive a much-needed facelift.
We chose that location because it provided some sidewalks with a slope, some sidewalks that are flat. The soils in the area work for infiltrating water, and it's a highly visible area.
The sidewalks at Alice Keck Park aren't the only location receiving permeable pavers this summer. The Creeks Division also plans to renovate this park's service road, located alongside Plaza de Veracruz downtown.
It's an area that's highly traveled by many vehicles crossing through the park, and it's a different use than what we've done before with demonstration projects in parking lots.
The city service road is bordered by the park on one side and local businesses on the other. Permeable pavers will continue to allow access for vehicles while providing much-needed stormwater management to this busy urban center. The Creeks Division hopes the service road makes a strong case for similar development in the future.
If this service road can be repaved from asphalt to permeable pavers, then other alleyways through the city will be able to have that permeable paver treatment as well.
While permeable paver projects may have higher upfront costs than asphalt, the surface materials will ultimately save the city money.
Permeable pavers will last longer than asphalt. They have the lifespan of concrete because they're a concrete product, but they also have the cracks and the gaps built in. And so whereas concrete over time will start to crack and fissure, if each concrete paver does actually get a crack in it, we can easily replace that pretty cheaply. Asphalt is not designed to last nearly as long as concrete, and asphalt does require ongoing maintenance. And so over time, you actually save money using permeable pavers.
In addition to the paver's long-term durability, state grant funding greatly reduces the project's upfront cost.
Because of the city's past success with permeable paver projects and low-impact development projects, we've been successful with a grant application for this current project in that 80% of the project will be funded through Proposition 84 bond funds coming in from the state.
1, 2, 3, and there we go.
Following the success of the Creeks Division's permeable paver program, Santa Barbara's Public Works Department will, for the first time, use the material in their own projects this summer.
Public Works is installing permeable pavers in our facilities yard and our Parks and Recreation yard, which spans the block of Laguna between Coda and Ortega.
Rather than allowing it to simply wash away, the new lots will capture rainfall, helping recharge the city's crucial groundwater resources.
We're going to be taking all of the asphalt on this parking lot and the adjacent parking lot and replacing it with permeable pavers. So it'll basically be able to infiltrate all stormwater runoff off of the buildings and that falls directly onto the parking lot.
After completing this summer's projects, the Creeks Division will go even further to integrate the pavers into city infrastructure, and for good reason. The innovative surface materials save money, control stormwater, and reduce pollution. Not bad for something you'd hardly notice beneath your feet.
For more information on the city's permeable paver projects, visit the Creeks website at santabarbaraca.gov/creeks. Well, mulch does a garden good. And to prove it, the county has a program that offers high-quality mulch that will help your landscape save water and keep your plants vibrant and healthy. Up next, find out how to take advantage of Santa Barbara's mulch program.
There are many benefits to using mulch for your landscaping and gardening needs. Mulch increases the soil organic content, controls soil erosion, suppresses weed growth, provides nutrients, but most importantly addresses an issue that benefits all of us.
One of its biggest benefits is actually helping to save water. So when you apply mulch to the surface, it acts like a blanket and helps stop evaporation.
Here are some easy to remember guidelines when applying mulch in your garden.
A thick layer of mulch is especially important to really save that water. So 3 to 4 inches of mulch. And then when you apply it, make sure you don't apply it right next to the tree trunks, because that can actually harm the tree.
Mulch eventually decomposes and becomes soil, so it's important to replace it with fresh mulch when necessary. The county's mulch is manufactured from 100% local recycled green waste. The green waste is made up of grass clippings, dried leaves, branches, and other yard trimmings.
Basically, we're taking yard waste produced by residents, and also a lot of big landscapers bring in yard waste as well.
The green waste is then trucked to the Tehigas landfill, where a multi-step quality assurance process is used to ensure that the green waste material is cleaned as much as possible before it's ground into mulch.
Materials that are not accepted for processing are materials like this plastic bag right here.
Other materials not accepted are fibrous plant materials such as succulents and palm fronds and are sorted out of the green waste.
So we're making every effort to pull out that material from our clean pile before it gets processed.
Rocks, plastic, wax-covered boxes, metals, and treated wood are also picked out of the green waste as well. The clean material then gets loaded into a grinder where it's processed into mulch. One way to get free mulch is through the Load Your Own program. There are 3 locations for people to pick up their own free mulch. The South Coast Recycling and Transfer Station in Santa Barbara, the Santa Ynez Recycling and Transfer Station in Los Olivos, and at the Waste Management Facility in Santa Maria.
At the free mulch pile, when you come and load it yourself, you can actually bring your own container. And I really recommend a durable plastic container that you know is not going to break.
A pitchfork is also recommended, as it is easier to scoop up the mulch with.
And then inside the transfer station, we got a lot of landscapers coming in there with really heavy-duty trucks, and they can actually have the mulch loaded for them for a very small fee.
For commercial-sized loads, only qualified trucks are allowed inside the transfer station area. No pickups or trailers, due to their danger of being overloaded. Also, a tarp is necessary to cover your load when transporting mulch from the transfer station.
We have some great delivery options available too. We have one large size delivery option, and then we also have a small size delivery option.
To get mulch delivered is easy. City of Santa Barbara water customers can get mulch delivered to them for free. The city will pay for 2 deliveries per site every 12 months. For county residents who are not city water customers, mulch can be delivered for as little as $10 a ton. Here's how you can set up a mulch delivery. First, figure out how much mulch you will need. Check the website, www.lessismore.org. There's a table you can use to calculate how much mulch you will need. Then, fill out the county's mulch purchase agreement found online and send it in. Deliveries of over 30 miles will incur additional costs of $2 per mile one way. Mulch can usually be delivered within 1 to 2 weeks. Using mulch not only saves water, but completes the local green waste recycling loop.
To learn more about how you can get free mulch, visit lessismore.org/mulch. We'll be right back with more Inside Santa Barbara.
Meet the most fascinating man in the world. When droughts happen, water experts go to him for water-saving actions. His front lawn requires no water because he replaced it with water-wise plants. He only works 2 days a week, and so do his sprinklers. He uses so little water, overwatered plants seek refuge in his yard.
I know a lot about saving water, but when I want to know more, I go to waterwisesp.org. Let's save together, my friends.
Welcome back. Whether it's to get exercise, have a get-together, or just escape the city bustle, Santa Barbara has a public park for you. But some neighborhoods, like the Lower West downtown, have a lack of public parks. Up next, City TV's Daviana San Miguel unveils a new park that's tiny in size, but big on fun.
For over 100 years, Santa Barbara's public park system has been regarded as one of the best in the world. But of the 57 open space, community and neighborhood parks, sports fields, and beaches, none have been located on the Lower West Side. That is, until now. After years of planning, the city recently completed construction of a new pocket park at the corner of Bath and Ortega streets.
Santa Barbara is rich in parks, but at the same time we have a number of neighborhoods that don't have enough open space. This neighborhood is an example of where we're able to develop a new little park, and we'd love to be able to do it in other parts of Santa Barbara whenever possible. As bits of land might come available, look for opportunities to put in essentially pocket parks, open spaces for the neighbors to enjoy.
The high cost of real estate coupled with the lack of undeveloped land means creating new parks in Santa Barbara is extremely difficult and rare. But due to the Ortega Bridge Replacement Project, a unique opportunity arose.
This parcel, which is actually 2 parcels, used to have houses on it, and it was acquired with former redevelopment agency funds as part of the Lower Mission Creek Flood Control Project. Additional land was needed to make creek and bridge related improvements, and then the leftover land that wasn't needed we always identified as a little pocket park.
The choice of what kind of park to create at the location was the result of a 15-year-long collaboration between the city and neighbors.
The playground was built for 2 to 5 year olds. and that's why you see the playground having just small features in it. We incorporated a nice little slide because that's what the neighborhood that came out to say that we want a 2 to 5 year playground in here for our youngsters. And so we made sure that was all incorporated into the design of this park.
The landscape designer for the new Bath Street Park used the challenge of the current drought to create a landscape that utilizes native drought-tolerant plants that require very little maintenance.
Since we are in a drought and essentially we avoid planting new trees and landscape wherever possible, we chose to take a bit of a minimalist approach here. We have native plants and shrubs, native trees, with the idea that over time they'll grow in very slowly, but then we'll also be able to allow this small space some little runaround space for children.
And due to its close proximity to Mission Creek, the park's design also includes a number of creek-friendly elements.
We had to take into account both the creek and the importance of maintaining creek and ocean water quality. So this entire site is designed to be permeable. When it rains, not 1 ounce of rain should leave the pocket park.
With the addition of the new park, Santa Barbara now has 22 playgrounds for children to enjoy.
Development of this park is a great example of the city and neighbors working together. A key feature of our design was speaking to neighbors, having a community meeting, and prioritizing their objectives with this park. They've been waiting for this park for a long time, so we also actually want to thank them for their patience. It's taken a little over 15 years to get to where we are today.
The new Bath Street Pocket Park is open to the public from sunrise to half hour after sunset. For more information, call 564-5418 or visit santabarbaraca.gov. Santa Barbara enjoys a positive global reputation in a number of areas like scenic beauty, history, weather, art, and culture. But over the last few years, a new phrase has begun to work its way onto the list: startup hotbed. City TV's Chris Bell has the story.
People are blown away that this community supports that big of a community of entrepreneurship and startup companies. If I'm at other summits elsewhere and they ask me what's going on in Santa Barbara, and I start listing companies like Citrix Online and Appfolio and Sonos and Deckers is here, you know, people's jaws hit the floor and go, wow, there's a ton going on. And then I go, yeah, that's the big companies. And now let me tell you about the, you know, the middle-sized companies and the smaller startups that are coming online.
Weave is one of the most productive women's business centers in terms of the number of clients that we serve in the entire United States. So I would say that speaks well for the entrepreneurial environment here.
To be fertile ground for startups, experts say a few key ingredients are required. Ingredients Santa Barbara has in spades.
There's talent, which you guys have a lot of. You've got great education system, great university, great engineers. There's capital. Santa Barbara doesn't have a lot of venture capitalists, but there's a lot of capital here. There's government, you know, what the role of the government is to make it easy and lower the threshold as it relates to helping startups actually get started.
I think there's two things going on. One is I think you do have a tremendously big demographic of individuals that are north of 60 years old that are basically entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs who are semi-retired or retired and are looking to give back to the community in one way or another. That's one half of the equation. I also think that this environment itself is very rich in terms of nonprofits. There's a lot of people here that want to give back to the community, want to basically give thanks in one way or another for ending up in a place like Santa Barbara.
If you appreciate living in one of the most beautiful climates in the world and being able to recreate or surf or paddleboard or be in the water or hang out at the beach or ride a mountain bike up in the mountains, I mean, if those things are important to you, which they are to a lot of startup culture entrepreneurs, then this is a pretty magical place to live.
And while the cultures of entrepreneurialism in Santa Barbara are in sync, the metadata behind the boom in startups is a substantial network of support and information resources.
I mean, so typically a talented entrepreneur will have a lot of energy, a good idea, or at least the beginning of a good idea, but they lack the experience and the education on how to really design a business. And so what Newspheric does, it provides that infrastructure. It provides the guidance, the basic leadership that the company will need to get to that point.
Startup SB is, we run about 9 events a year. It's just to get people together. It's to give opportunities for young startups to get out in front of people, to talk about what they're doing, to maybe connect with mentors, maybe connect with financing, investment, maybe find teammates, maybe find people that can help their business grow. And then other individuals just to get inspired by the people that already have their business up and running. Maybe you'll hear about a new idea. Maybe you'll meet somebody that's got a new idea they want to jump on a project. It's just to bring ideas together and help them flourish in town.
Weave is a nonprofit organization. We provide a continuum of services from training that helps the client who has an idea but hasn't actually started their business yet, up through the first 5 years or more of actually running and growing the business.
Another key ingredient to the startup recipe is access to workspace that is flexible, versatile, and scalable.
That's what Synergy is. It's 6,500 square feet. We've got about 32 different businesses down here, about 55 different people, and it's really kind of a professional business and startup center, if you will. A lot of creative people down here, and it's just a really creative, fun place to work and to kind of have a family.
A resource like work zones and other types of places that really support the solopreneurs, which is the big trend that I see, is this very small, independent 1- and 2-person type businesses. They have this flexibility and professionalism, but without having the overhead costs. So it's really hard when you first get started. Every penny counts, and so this is a good example of ways that we can support the community and keep it moving here.
The proliferation of these startup-friendly workspaces, coupled with a solid base of willing mentors and support by a host of resources, has given entrepreneurialism in Santa Barbara a critical mass.
And I really think in the last couple of years it's hit a crescendo. It seems that the academic and business and government, each of those different components have come together and really done a lot to create the ecosystem that is inviting and very attractive to startup entrepreneurs.
I think that Santa Barbarans are very proud of the unique nature of our city, and so I think they tend to be predisposed to want to support locally owned businesses, and this is really good news for our clients.
We feel very welcomed by other businesses and even some of the companies that offer similar types of space. We always feel like we work together really well, and I appreciate that. I think it's fantastic, and I've seen in other communities where that just doesn't occur. So you don't have that sense of, I'm part of Santa Barbara. I love that.
To find out more about the startup community, visit startupsb.com. Now, you've got your idea for a business, you want to locate it in Santa Barbara, and you're ready to move ahead, but you're not sure what the next step is. Up next, we'll show you what resources the city has at the ready to help local businesses get off the ground.
Your role in the business community is an important one, and we know that at the city, you have to work with us to be successful. We know that your time is money, and so we need to do what we can at the city to make sure that you are successful in moving forward, whether it is finding a new place to open a business, getting your lease, figuring out all the tenant improvements you may need to have. It can get complicated. So what we're hoping through a series of videos and some informational pieces out to you is to help you find the best way to open up your business for success, and to at least start asking the questions that may have to go through your mind before you sign that lease paper, before you make those final decisions. So I hope you do take the time to look at the information that we're providing to you so that we can work together as partners in making Santa Barbara as economically viable as possible.
Santa Barbara is truly a magnificent place to live, work, and visit. Business owners play an important role not only in the economic health of the community, but also ensuring public safety through adherence to high standards in aesthetics, design, construction, and environmental leadership. These standards help preserve the old world charm and ambiance for which Santa Barbara is world-renowned. If you want to start a business in Santa Barbara, city staff welcomes your questions and is ready to assist you in fulfilling the necessary requirements.
When someone comes into 630 Garden Street, all staff are committed to quality customer service. We hope to provide clear information, accurate information, and to set expectations in your mind realistically as to what can be achieved. We hope to respond to your emails and telephone calls in a timely fashion, and to provide predictability to your process from start to finish.
In addition to city efforts, community organizations like the Small Business Development Center at Santa Barbara City College are here to help.
So we help small businesses actually get started. We help with existing businesses retain jobs if they're in a distressed situation, and we help to create jobs and gain access to capital investment or finance for the small businesses.
Potential business owners should also contact the Santa Barbara Chamber of Commerce. This hardworking organization helps small businesses identify challenges and create a plan for the big picture.
What our job is to try and make the climate here as beneficial for the business community as possible, which certainly helps with startup businesses. So, through our new Economic Vitality team, which is the economic development organization for all of Santa Barbara County, it's working in each of the communities to find what sorts of roadblocks there might be to folks that want to start a business.
The city and its partners want to provide new businesses with as much information as possible up front. By sharing information together early in the process, prospective business owners can avoid surprises and understand key regulations.
We like to catch these small business owners before they actually get too deep and help them to analyze what they need in terms of what the costs will be, what the permitting process is, what the licensing process is, so that we get them, before they start spending money on the wrong things, get them to really understand what they're getting into before they commit themselves to a landlord or a property.
There are many variables and costs to consider when starting a business.
For instance, if I'm moving here and I'm going to open up a small retail store, there's a lot of things that you've got to be able to know before you go sign that lease. We certainly don't want people deciding they want to put their business in location X and they sign the lease and they go to then get all the permissions from the city and find out it's not zoned for that purpose, or they don't have adequate parking for that use.
To learn more about the city's regulations and tips for small businesses, instructional videos and guides are available on the city website. This information covers how to obtain a business license, tips before you sign a lease, and the basics of the city planning and permitting process. There are many resources available to help you start your business. A successful business is good for everyone.
If you're interested in starting a business in Santa Barbara, visit santabarbaraca.gov/business for more information and resources. Did you ever think that Santa Barbara and a small town in Ireland would have something in common? They're both beautiful oceanside communities, but they also share something deeper, something involving the lofty goal of promoting world peace. Up next, City TV's Yara Cassis explains.
In the mid-1950s, with the Cold War in full force, the Korean War just ended, and the scars of World War II still fresh, the world longed for peace. In response, in 1956, President Dwight Eisenhower initiated a program aimed at fostering bonds between people from different communities around the world in order to promote peace and prosperity.
Now, if we are going to take advantage of the assumption that all people want peace, then the problem is for people to get together.
The idea was that you can create world peace not by nation to nation, government to government, but by people to people and family to family. And so it's just a great way to connect.
The idea is to create relationships and connections in between two cities on a whole bunch of different levels. Could be commercial, could be cultural, could be educational.
Dingle is a small town located on the Irish Peninsula. It was established as a Santa Barbara sister city in 2003. Like Santa Barbara, Dingle is blessed with stunning scenic beauty. Its economy, like ours, is also heavily influenced by tourism.
Dingle is the most charming, fabulous peninsula in the world. We have mountains, we have glaciated valleys, we have beaches that are unpopulated, and you can go any place and have it all to yourself, and it's paradise.
Dingle and Santa Barbara also share long, intimate relationships with the ocean, a fact that is symbolized by public art pieces that have a common lineage.
One of the things that both sister cities share is a beautiful fountain made by Bud Bottoms. And so just like we have our dolphin fountain, Dingle has theirs. And it really creates a bond in between the two cities. And it's special to have that connection You know, not that a sculpture does that itself, but really what it represents.
Being tourist destinations, both Santa Barbara and Dingle are also foodie towns.
We're considered, we are the foodie capital of Ireland, so that means we are, we've fabulous chefs and people with all these kind of skills living in Dingle and creating beautiful food.
A comparison of Dingle and Santa Barbara wouldn't be complete without considering art. In fact, every May Dingle holds a music and arts festival that is strikingly similar to our beloved solstice celebration. Dingle is also home to many skilled artisans. Brian DeStock, who is the head of the Dingle Sister Cities program, for instance, is an accomplished jewelry maker. DeStock incorporates Dingle culture into his pieces in a very interesting way.
Our jewelry is very much based on Dingle history. We use a lot of the ancient artifacts around Dingle. We have like 3,000 artifacts going back thousands of years. And it's very easy to get inspiration from these. My ideal in life is to explain that, to encourage people to understand what we have, and to get, I use jewelry as the medium to connect between the old and the new.
Since Dingle and Santa Barbara became sister cities, the bond between the two cities has been strengthened by numerous cultural exchanges.
About 8 years ago, perhaps, our former Mayor Marty Bloom went with a contingent to Dingle and brought Imaginari to Dingle. You know, we're talking now about what can we do to promote, for example, Santa Barbara wines in Dingle, or how to bring Dingle to Santa Barbara and, you know, cross-reference that way. So I mean, there are lots of opportunities.
Santa Barbara gains from having all of our sister cities, all 7 of them around the world. Dingle in particular, there is an Irish heritage to this city. Some Irish Americans have played some very prominent roles in the development of our city, and so it's great that we're able to have that connection in between these two cities so that we can make sure that people continue to remember.
To strengthen that connection, a contingent from Dingle recently visited Santa Barbara.
One of the best things that we had about their visit was the official mayor's welcome, which happened on Friday afternoon. And so we had the whole 13 of them in the mayor's anteroom, where she has a lot of the sister city information. And there was an exchange of gifts, and the mayor was given some very, very nice things from some of the craftsmen in Dingle. Actually, Dingle is known for craftsmanship, crystal in particular. And the mayor had some nice gifts for the Dingle crew. So it was a very nice exchange of gifts and an official welcome. And of course, City Hall is so beautiful, they love to be here.
It's everybody's dream to go to California, I think. And to think that our beautiful Dingle is a sister city of Santa Barbara is amazing and magnificent.
Santa Barbara has 7 sister cities around the globe. If you'd like to learn more about the Sister City program or how to get involved, call 564-5318. Well, that does it for this episode of Inside Santa Barbara. If you have questions or comments about the show, you can give us a call at 564-5311. You can also watch the show online at santabarbaraca.gov/citytv. I'm your host, Becky Davis, and remember to get involved inside Santa Barbara.